The rain had been falling for 3 straight days, pounding the tin roof of my house like a drummer who had forgotten how to quit. Out here in southern Louisiana, storms were nothing new, but this one was different. It wasn't just a heavy shower or a late summer hurricane. It was constant, unrelenting, a sheet of gray water that blurred the edges of the world and turned my yard into a shallow swamp. I'd grown up here. I knew the language of storms. I knew the way the air turned green before a tornado, the way the crickets fell silent before lightning cracked too close. But this didn't fit the pattern. The local radio had been repeating the same emergency broadcasts since the first night, warning everyone in town to stay inside, secure their doors, and wait for the all clear. That in itself wasn't strange. What chilled me was the rest of the message. Do not open your door to anyone. Do not respond to cries for help. Barricade your cellar if you have one. Wait for the official signal. I remember the first time I heard it. I had just finished microwaving a plate of leftover gumbo, and my dog Sam was curled up at my feet, ears twitching with every rumble of thunder. The radio on the counter fizzed with static and then carried that calm but urgent voice across my kitchen. I stood frozen, spoon halfway to my mouth. I had lived through hurricanes, tornadoes, flash floods. Never once had I heard the government tell me not to open the door. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe looters. Maybe someone thought folks might use the chaos to break in, steal supplies. But the idea of a thief knocking politely before robbing you was ridiculous, and the thought stuck in my mind like a thorn. By midnight, the water was lapping at the front porch, and I carried Sam down into the cellar. It wasn't much. Stone walls slick with old moisture, a generator that coughed to life if you begged it hard enough, and a few shelves stacked with canned food and water jugs. My dad had built it decades ago after one too many storms chewed up the town, and though it always smelled of mildew and dust, it was the safest place I knew. I set up a folding chair, gave Sam her dinner, and tried to convince myself that I'd ride out this storm the same way I always did. Wait, listen. Hope the roof stayed nailed down. But the voice from the radio echoed in my head as I killed the lantern and stretched out in the dark. Do not respond to cries for help. Barricade your cellar. Do not open the door. Outside, the wind moaned against the house, and the rain rattled the boards like 1,000 desperate hands. And for the first time in years, I felt afraid to sleep. I must have dozed off in that folding chair, because when I opened my eyes, the lantern had burned out, and the cellar was ink black. Sam's growl was the first thing I heard. It was low and steady, a sound she rarely made. She wasn't looking at me. Her body was angled toward the wooden door at the top of the cellar steps. At first, I thought it was the storm that had woken her. The thunder had been rolling in waves all night, and the wind shrieked like nails on glass. But then I heard it too. Footsteps, slow, careful, crossing the boards of my kitchen above. I froze, every nerve tightening until my muscles hurt. My house was a mile from the next neighbor, too far for anyone to be dropping by at 2 in the morning. Nobody would be walking around in this storm unless they had lost their mind. The footsteps stopped directly above the cellar door. Then came a knock. Not frantic, not polite, just 3 steady raps against the wood, like someone testing the weight of it. Sam barked, sharp and furious, claws scraping the concrete as if she wanted to tear through the door. My heart kicked into overdrive. I snatched up the small hunting knife I kept down here and edged toward the stairs. Another knock. Louder this time. Then a voice. "Let me in, please. It's bad out here." I almost dropped the knife. My breath caught in my throat. The voice was familiar, so familiar it sent ice down my spine. "Mark," it said again, "it's me. Open the door, little brother." My brother lived in California. I hadn't seen him in years. He didn't even know my new address. There was no way in hell he was standing above me in the middle of a Louisiana storm. Sam must have known too, because her barking changed. She wasn't just alert, she was terrified. Hackles raised, teeth bared, every sound from her chest a warning. I pressed an ear to the crack of the cellar door. The wood vibrated as something leaned against it. The voice spoke again, a little deeper, a little raspier. "Come on, Alec. Open up. I'm cold. I'm hurt. You don't want me to die out here, do you?" My stomach turned. The words were right, but the tone wasn't. By the end of the sentence, the pitch had dropped into something not quite human, not quite real. I backed down the steps, knife shaking in my hand, while Sam growled like she was staring down a wolf. Then the knocking changed. It wasn't a request anymore. It was a pounding. Fists, or whatever passed for fists, hammering the wood so hard dust rained from the ceiling. I wanted to scream back, to threaten with the shotgun I wished I had brought downstairs, but my throat was locked tight. The pounding stopped as suddenly as it started. Silence pressed in, thicker than the storm. And then the voice came again, whispering through the crack. "You're going to let me in eventually." I didn't sleep after that. I sat in the dark, knife clutched tight, waiting for the next sound. Sam never settled either. She paced the cellar floor in tight circles, pausing now and then to stare up at the door as if she could see through the wood. Hours must have passed, though I lost all sense of time. The storm above never eased, but sometime near dawn, the pounding started again, lighter this time, almost playful. And then came a second voice. "Open up," it sang. A woman's tone, sweet as sugar, almost mocking. "We're thirsty. We're cold. Don't you want company?" I gritted my teeth. My cellar felt smaller by the second, walls pressing in on me. The voice wasn't anyone I knew, but the way it slipped under my skin made me want to claw at my ears. Another voice joined, male, slurred like he was drunk. "Come on, man. Don't be selfish. Share your warmth." Then another, and another. By the time the sun should have been rising, there were at least half a dozen voices outside the cellar door. They talked over each other, sometimes laughing, sometimes whispering my name. Some sounded like strangers, some sounded like people I loved. And that was the worst part, because among them, clear as glass, I heard my mother. She'd been gone for nearly 10 years, but her voice rang out above the rest, soft and pleading. "Mark, baby, it's all right. Just open the door. I'm here now." My chest collapsed in on itself. For a single, insane moment, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to rush up those steps and pull the door wide, let her arms wrap me up like when I was a kid. Sam saved me. She lunged at the stairs, barking so hard her body shook. The sound snapped me out of it, reminded me what was real and what wasn't. That's when the radio flicked on by itself. Static filled the cellar, sharp and violent, before settling into that same calm government voice. Except this time, the message had changed. "The signal is compromised. Do not trust the voices. Do not acknowledge them. Do not let them see you listening." Then it cut back to static, like it had never spoken at all. The voices outside fell silent, and in that silence I felt it. Something crouched low, pressing its ear to the cellar door, breathing slow and steady, waiting for me to slip. By evening, the storm had grown into something alive. The wind didn't just howl, it screamed, ripping across the house like it wanted the boards to give way. The rain hammered down so hard it shook the foundation. Every sound above was magnified in the cellar, each groan of wood making me imagine nails tearing loose, beams snapping, the roof caving in. The generator sputtered sometime after dark, coughed once, and went silent. I kicked it, cursed it, tried the starter again and again until my fingers bled, but nothing. The cellar drowned in black. I lit one of my last candles. The flame pushed shadows into the corners, sharp and twitching. Sam wouldn't sit still. She padded back and forth, whining low, ears pricked toward the door. That's when I heard the voices again. Not knocking this time. Moving. They circled the house above me, footsteps sloshing through water, laughter threading between the storm. Sometimes they came close, so close I swore I could hear nails dragging along the cellar door. Sometimes they drifted far, only to snap back all at once, a chorus calling my name. "Mark! Mark! Let us in!" Sam pressed herself against my leg, trembling. I knelt, tried to shush her, but my own heartbeat was too loud in my ears. Then came a sound I hadn't heard before. Scraping. Long, slow scrapes against the outer wall of the cellar, like claws testing stone. Whatever was out there had grown tired of knocking. It was searching. The candle guttered. The flame bent sideways, though there was no draft, like something unseen had breathed across it. That was when the voices changed. They stopped calling my name. They started imitating mine. I heard my own voice echoing through the floorboards, mocking me, pleading in perfect imitation. "Help me, please. I can't breathe. I'm trapped down here." My stomach dropped. They weren't just trying to trick me anymore. They were practicing, learning. The cellar door rattled, hinges straining. Sam exploded into barks, hurling herself against the stairs. And above it all, through the storm and laughter and scraping, I heard the one sound I dreaded since the first night. 3 knocks, slow, patient, right against the cellar door. The 3 knocks echoed through the cellar, each one deeper than the last, shaking the wood like it had been struck by something heavier than any hand. The candle went out, leaving only the sound of my breathing and Sam's low growl in the dark. Then the voices began again. But this time, all of them spoke at once, a dozen, maybe more, overlapping in a chaos of tones. They called my name, begged for help, cursed me, laughed. My mother's voice screamed. My brother's voice wept, and threaded through them all was my own voice, steady and cold, repeating one line over and over. Open the door, open the door, open the door. The cellar shuddered as something slammed against it, hard enough that the wood split. Dust rained from the ceiling. The next blow would break it. I gripped the knife, but I knew it was nothing. Whatever waited above wasn't something I could cut down. My hands shook, sweat dripping into my eyes. Sam barked herself hoarse, throwing her body against the stairs like she'd fight to her last breath. Then, through the storm and the pounding, I heard the radio again. It snapped to life in the pitch dark, hissing with static before that calm voice returned. This is the official signal. The storm is ending. Hold until daylight. Hold. Almost on cue, the pounding stopped. The voices choked off mid-sentence. Silence fell so sudden it made my ears ring. I didn't move. Not for minutes. Not for hours. I sat on the cold floor, knife still clutched, staring at the black outline of the cellar door, while Sam leaned against me, chest heaving. At some point, the rain softened. The howling wind faded into nothing, and when the first thin slice of light pushed through the crack around the door, I realized the night was over. Careful, I climbed the steps. My hand hovered on the latch. Sam whimpered at my side, not eager but ready. I pulled it open. The kitchen above was wrecked. Mud streaked across the floor, chairs overturned, the front door hanging wide open like something had clawed it inward. But the storm was gone. Outside, the sky was washed clean, blue and endless. The air smelled sharp and new. No footsteps, no voices, just the drip of water running off the roof and the sound of Sam's paws splashing in the puddles as she bounded into the light. I followed her out, my legs trembling, my lungs filling with air that didn't taste of fear anymore. For the first time in days, I let myself believe it. I had survived the storm.